Before we really get into the comment, which I blurred out the username and the picture just out of respect, you know, I like to do that for some people sometimes. And I'm going to take this question as really good faith, but one of the guys in my audience asked a question and it looks like another man replied to it. I want to go over it, deconstruct it with you, and answer this question in completely good faith. And the question is about accountability in communities, feeling like you're always walking on eggshells, and why the communities don't feel enticing to a lot of men when it feels like people are just waiting around to pounce on you for doing something problematic. But let's talk about it, because though I think those communities do exist in the world, that's not this one. Okay, this community is never going to punish you for being a man, because being a man doesn't mean you've done a punishable offense. Even if I say all men are misogynists under patriarchy, it's not saying you always have to be that way. It's saying patriarchy convinces you the best way to be is this way. I mean, most of the ways that men are brought up in society are trained into them from birth when you're little boys, and the system neglects you and uses you. And instead of being mad at the system, you're mad at women who exist and survive in the system. And I get it, but also women uphold the patriarchy as well. So they also are contributors to why things stay the same. Okay, let's go over this comment, girl. No stupid questions here, especially if they're good faith. So I'm gonna, like I said, deconstruct this with really good faith. He says, I think a part of why communities like these are so unenticing is because it feels like people are constantly watching for an opportunity to get you on something. Everyone is imperfect, both in intentions and actions. But if you knew them, you would probably think on balance they are good individuals. If life was a test, scoring a 70 or higher is passing. Yes, you should be encouraged to improve, but you shouldn't be shit on because you didn't score 100. There is something sad about having to be consistently be vigilant against wrong think and wrong act. Then the person replies, I fully agree, the replier says. I feel like in some progressive spaces, you have to walk around eggshells. As someone who is raised progressive, I still try to give people the benefit of the doubt, as long as they aren't intentionally cruel or violent with their opinions, and they just genuinely don't understand some things, I give people grace. However, on the flip side, I understand why some progressives wouldn't want to do that, because it is very exhausting to have to consistently educate people. Pretty reasonable reply. They seem to agree with one another, but also there is nuance there. But also, let's talk about this idea of passing, right? And we're not talking about trans people who we love. Okay, let me also pull up this thing. Sorry, I forgot to pull it up. Let me pull up this. So yesterday, I covered Joey Swoll, right? And one thing I forgot to bring up is actually this tweet he had put out. And it kind of encompasses the problem with the boy bubbles, but also mentality of people. And it's the same thing Ethan Klein is suffering from right now, right? It's the same thing that most men suffer from. And I'm going to show Cavernacle's video because, you know, sometimes men don't want to hear women or femme people talk. So, hey, I'm going to bring up a man just to like solidify my argument here, but also understand that I genuinely do not think you're a bad person because you were born a man. I need you to really understand that. I don't believe that. Okay? Okay. Joey Swoll put out this tweet. All the good things I've done, he says, all the people I've helped, all for nothing. I truly hope all the people I've inspired to do great things in their life and paid forward to help others and carry on my message. But no matter how much good you do, people just wait for a reason to hate you and tear you down. You either die a hero or live long enough to be the villain. Thank you for your support. I am done. Oh no, not Joey. Joey, come back. I'm sorry, bro. It's literally the Ethan Klein of it all. Men are raised under patriarchy to literally just be heroes when we never needed one in the first place. We don't need heroes. We need community members. We don't need white knights. We need community members. We don't need, you know what I'm saying? Y'all are so busy trying to be heroes. We don't need a hero. Need a hero. Ba-na-na-na. We don't actually need that. Thanks. And even for women who say, I love a man that provides. I want my man to be my hero. Girl, get off it. Deconstruct. Stupid. Just kidding. No, Brittany, focus. Sorry, I'm going to try not to say stupid so much today. It's just funny to me. It's a stim. It's a stim. It's become a stim. Every time I say it, I make myself laugh a little bit, okay? It's funny. Listen, you're not stupid. You're ill-informed. Listen, you're uplifting a system that is not going to make you happy, okay? And because it's not going to make you happy, you're going to make me miserable. You're going to literally spend your life being annoying because you refuse to be happy, okay? And I need you to get off it. So when he says, you live long enough to become the villain, this is Ethan, I would know. They made me out to be a villain. I just wanted to be a hero. Listen, Ethan, listen. Boys, what would we do without men? We need these heroes. What would we do without men? No, for real, seriously. For real. FR. Put that in chat. What would we do without them? We really need them. Listen. I'm being so sorry. I told myself not to be sarcastic when I came on stream today. I think I failed a little bit. I'm sorry. I think I failed. Listen. I think men genuinely buy into this. I think they really believe their job is to be a hero. I think they really believe that at the end of the day, this is what women want. They want you to be heroes. This is why I say beware of a white knight. I've known so many white men, that's not what I meant to say, but white knight men who are like, I value women. I think they're so great. I just think they're so smart. But at the end of the day, their bullshit comes through when they talk. They say the most misogynistic shit ever. When complimenting a woman, it's always about how her tits are bouncing. It's like, girl, please. Don't tell me you care about the dignity of women. And then you're like, have you seen her tits though? It's like, okay, there is a time and a place. So let's deconstruct this message together before I get to Kavanarko really fast. I think a part of why communities like these are so unsettling is because it feels like people are constantly watching for an opportunity to get you on something. Now, we know those communities. They exist in all spaces, whether it's a church community, a politically conservative community, a liberal community, a politically neutral community. There are just groups of people on the planet that are reveling, excited, elated, and trying to tear you down. I talked about this in the T-App on my last podcast about the T-App. I said, if you were elated about abuse, if you are excited abuse occurred so you can talk about it, you're the problem. Ethan Klein does this. Ethan Klein loves when women have been sexually abused by men, in my opinion, based off how he reacts to abuse victims. He's like, did he touch you? Did he like rape you? He gets so excited at the idea that he has somebody on his stream who might have been hurt so he can exploit it for views. And it's not uncommon. It's actually it's in a lot of true crime bubbles as well. I've noticed I really don't like true crime bubbles because a lot of the people there, regardless of gender, mostly women, are so excited to be like, ooh, he was so abusive. Ooh, they love it's like they revel in how disgusting human beings can be. And they love being the person who gets to tell you about it. And I just think it's really gross. It's really dark. It's like really genuinely dark. And I'm not trying to be dark like that. I'm trying to be the light of the world, baby, like Jesus, but cuter. He is the light of the world. Listen, okay? So I understand and I agree, but it's not the progressive communities that are doing this alone. This is a universal experience in all communities, right? Yes, more gay chat, exactly, more gay. These communities exist everywhere because it's a type of person that comes together and therefore creates a community. But it's a type of person, okay? That's what it is. Chad says, I notice a lot of people do this as well. All night types, even with women coaches that believe they're helping, 100%. Okay, so the commenter goes on to say, everyone is imperfect, both in intentions and actions. But if you knew them, you would probably think on balance they were good individuals, which is why we're able to condone and ignore abuse, 100%. The reason why it is so hard for us to hold people accountable is because we like abusive people. We don't like their abuse, but when they're not being abusive, we like them. We like our boys. We like our homies. We like them. They're fun. Okay? Like we like the people in our life because like there's a part of them we know when they're not like supporting abuse. Right? I get it. If we looked at, that's why I say from a philosophical standpoint, most people are good. The dilemma is that it's not good enough when we're talking about breaking generational curses. So this is really important, right? And this is going to be really hard to understand because we're raised in these bubbles where people are settling. They're settling in relationships. They're settling for their lives. They're settling for their values. Okay? Let's say this is the goal. Let's say this is actually the goal. Okay, people are still going to struggle and people are still going to have problems. But if we can get people to hear, then their problems we can fix to some extent. Their problems we can deal with. Okay, because right now we're over here where people are arguing whether or not a genocide makes sense. We're allowing a literal genocide to happen in multiple places on the planet. Okay, millions and millions and millions of people deeply struggling for the basics. Food, water, shelter, baby. Food, water, shelter. Okay, we're here where a rapist gets elected for president. We're here where people make excuses for people, men and women, right? I know women who voted for Trump. My mother voted for Trump, right? And listen, I have a very difficult relationship with my parents. I have a difficult relationship with my family sometimes, and it's all about open with boundaries. I know the goodness in my parents, but I also know they voted for a rapist. I also know that they know I've been assaulted, but we don't talk about it. I also know that when people have been raped, they've often questioned what they did to put themselves in that position. I know my parents are victim blamers. I know my parents often will say to me, I don't know why you're so upset with this man. It's like he did something to you, even though the man in question is somebody who had an affair with a minor. Though not physical, who cares? It was a long-term affair in which gaslighting occurred. And they're like, I don't know why you're so angry at him. Did he do something to you personally? Why aren't you mad at him? Why aren't you mad at him? And yet I still talk to my parents. And yet we still have a relationship. Why do I have a relationship with my parents? Because I understand the goodness inside of them, but it cannot ignore the evil, philosophically speaking, of course. So how do we get people, okay, to go on this journey to get over here? It's difficult, right? Because it's going to look, well, actually, it's going to look like this. It's going to kind of look like this in a sense. Like the colors are going to start to change until they naturally start to kind of get redder over time. Just bear with me here, okay? I'm an artiste. Just bear with me. Okay. And I say this with great love, that it takes a lot of labor to get people into a better place. Okay? A ton of labor. And the dilemma is that it's only a few of us who are doing that labor. Most of the people aren't going to do that labor. So, like, I'm not talking, as an example, to 2 of my siblings in my family, because 2 of them got issues with women. 2 of them have offended in ways that I'm like, too far. And yet, all the siblings check in with me and go, hey, have you talked to so-and-so yet? I'm like, no. But they're still talking to them. And I'm like, you're willing to talk to them because you want to play this middle ground, which I understand. But I told these men, I will talk to you always, but we have to have the conversation. Okay? And both of the boys are like, I'm not having this conversation with you. You can't try to hold me accountable. They rejected my gift, my olive branch of accountability, because I wanted to get my brothers into recovery. I wanted to give my brothers tools to not be who they were because they were bad people. And instead of taking it, they rejected it. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're not my mom. You live in a different country. You don't get to try to, And I was like, I am giving you an out. I am literally giving you an out. And you won't take it. So now we don't talk. My DMs are always open. But they won't talk, okay? There is this idea that we're not giving people an opportunity to do better. That is bullshit. Some of us are absolutely waiting to give our family opportunity, and y'all aren't taking it. So going back to this comment, right? If you knew these people, you'd probably think they were pretty good. They are pretty good. But what does that matter what does it matter if 90% of you is good, if the 10% of you that is left over is doing this shit? Okay? Racist, homophobic, transphobic, victim blaming, offending in a way that I'm absolutely not okay with, right? Okay. So they say if it was a test, scoring 70 or higher is passing. Yes, most people are doing good enough, but it's not good enough if we actually want to break generational curses. It's not actually good enough if we want to do better. It's not actually good enough if we can't actually get to the other side. And not to mention that I assume these men are going to get into relationships with people in which they are going to conveniently avoid telling their partners, so informed consent, that this is their past. And that's the dilemma. I don't care if you're related to me. If you've done something, okay, then any woman who ever dates you, I'm going to tell her. I'm going to tell her. And you can be upset with me about it, and they're going to be upset about it. But you know what's even more upsetting is that I would deny that woman informed consent because he's my brother. How could I deny that woman informed consent just because he has my blood? If my values are progressive, if my values are consent-based, if my values say every life on this planet deserves dignity, I must be dignified in my actions towards them, right? It is my job. It is my job to inform all women, all people, gay, straight, gender fluid, whatever, who end up with people who might hurt them, that, hey, that person has not done the work. And I need you to know that, because they're not going to give you informed consent. I will give it to you. Okay? And look, I know people are out there saying, I can't believe you would do that. They're your family. And this is why you're not going to break any generational curses in yours. Because the burden of being the person who breaks generational curses, no one wants to talk to you anymore. No one wants you invited to the family gatherings. They see you as the bad guy. They see you as annoying. Oh, you're always bringing it up. You're always talking about it, because none of you are talking about it. Oh, you're always in people's business. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you got involved. Listen, I'm not always involved, but I will be involved to protect somebody. So yeah, breaking up the generational curses, like actually ending that shit, is difficult, because you also have to have the wisdom and discernment to know when to interact, to know when to intervene, to know how to intervene. And that's really difficult. Okay? Chet says, how can we discern when to share our past with a love interest? I worry people will use your honesty against you later. That's a great question. That's why I say, guys, when you're interacting with people, when you're bonding with people, there are so many ways to knock them out of the running to be your partner before you even have to give them anything truly intimate. And for me, truly intimate things are not how much money I make, what STIs I have, what my mental health status is. For Brittany, those things are public. I don't give a fuck. Okay? What I give a fuck about are your values. Who are your family members? Who are you going to invite to be around my children? When are you going to stand up to your family members when shit goes down? Are you going to do the right thing when it comes to the community? That's why I ask community-based questions that involve our kids. Even though I don't have kids, I'm not having kids. I ask kid-based questions when on dates with people. Because how you react to children and the most vulnerable will tell me everything I need to know about you, right? So there are so many questions you can ask somebody that doesn't need to be your true vulnerability before, if they pass all of those other tests, all those other questionnaires, and then we get to a fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth date, and then you're really talking about marriage for real, then you can start having a conversation about, okay, let's talk about the things that are going to matter. Here's my family drama. Here are the things that might matter. Here are the things that, when you're marrying into me, you're marrying into this family. Here's some of the shit with the family, right? But that's why I say companionship is not the same as settling. If you're settling, half y'all are not going to tell your partners anything. Half of the people I know who settle in relationships literally keep secrets. They literally think it's their right to keep secrets from their partners. You're not doing what I'm doing. So you have to decide, am I going to be in a relationship where I keep secrets from my partner? Or am I going to be in a relationship where I pick somebody I don't need to keep secrets from, which is the difference here. I don't have to keep secrets from you, because you're never going to misuse what I tell you. You're never going to do that. I knew when I dated people, sometimes I knew I was oversharing. I was like, damn, I know I'm trusting an untrustworthy person with my personal fears and vulnerabilities. And, there's a regret there. But that was also on me for doing it when I wasn't even comfortable to do it. Don't do it if you're uncomfortable. You shouldn't be uncomfortable when sharing vulnerabilities, in a sense like you shouldn't feel unsafe, right? And that's same with family and friends. Same with family and friends, y'all. This isn't just romantic relationships. Okay, now let's watch this section from Cavernacle's latest video called We Need to Talk About Why Leftist Men Keep Being Exposed as Creeps. It's about Alex Lolo. But 23 minutes in, he has this segment here that I think is just really important. It's just a small segment. Listen to this.
I think it is something we should talk about as well, that a lot of leftist men believe in things in theory. So they're not pretending to be leftists, a lot of them. Like, they are actually leftists in theory. They believe in these things in theory. They might constantly talk about patriarchy. They might talk about all of these like gender dynamics, gender norms, like liberating women. In theory, they believe in that. And I think as men, in terms of passive misogyny, yes, we can understand the systems like, yeah, patriarchy, capitalism, all this stuff that makes us act a certain way. We can understand that and analyze it. It's a lot harder to practice it when you grow up as a straight man and a straight white man in the UK or America, where the world is designed for you, so you don't actually even have to challenge your own prejudices. And I spoke about this pretty openly in my video about online misogyny. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not trying to depict myself as the like uber male feminist, because I'm not trying to do that. And a lot of people seem to think I'm doing that whenever I talk about these subjects. Is the thing with misogyny for men like us is you don't even realize it. And sometimes you feel yourself thinking something or reacting a certain way, and you have to take the time to think, why did I react that way? So here's a recent...
Okay, hold on. He's going to give an example of his own, but I want to say that I think a lot of people talk a big game because they think it's true for them. That's why I say it's easy to think you're a good person if you've never been tempted. I need to know what you've done when you've been tempted. So one of my favorite date questions is like, you know, or one of my greatest like even for friends is like, hey, when you've been tempted, what have you done? Or like, hey, what was a situation in which like you were given a choice and how do you know which choice you would make? Especially from a philosophical standpoint, right? Especially when you talk philosophically, this is why the trolley problem is a philosophical quandary, because we always think we're good people, but what does it mean to be a good person when we're actually given an opportunity? So when given an opportunity, what did you do? And then what was the opportunity in that moment that made you do something like you regret? Like I think back of my life and I think about times that I regretted doing something and I remember exactly why I did it. And all I can say to this commenter who left this comment to me is, listen, I'm not going to punish you for making a decision you regret. I'm going to hold you accountable for not regretting it. And I don't mean regret in terms of philosophically regret, like, hey, we can't regret things because like it all ended up okay. I get that. But hypothetically, if we went back, would you do it again? I'm asking you if you've learned from the behavior. I'm not punishing you because you did the behavior. I'm holding you accountable for repeating it. This is the difference. You're repeating the behavior. Okay? That's the dilemma that I'm seeing in people, is you're not thinking about it. And if you're not going to think about it, yeah, your 70% isn't good enough when we're talking about racism and bigotry and all these things. And I think that's what people are missing, okay? So here, back to Cavernacle.
An example for you. You guys know I love football, right? I'm pretty good at football. And I was watching the Women's Euros, and obviously, like, massive credit to the English women winning. It's actually good to see England win for once. And I was watching the penalty shootout, right? And a lot of the penalties were terrible. Like, they were just bad penalties. And, like, they were kicking it kind of, like, mid-level to the keepers, like, left or right, easy saves. The last penalty taker, Chloe Kelly, just absolutely smashed it in. Great penalty. But I was thinking when I was watching that, I could take a better penalty than that. Like, of course I could. Like, I take a better penalty. And then it's just like that impulsive reaction of like, well, if I was watching the English men do that, would I have that reaction? Would I be like, I can take a better penalty? If I was a woman, I would be in the England team. Like, that sort of ridiculous mindset. And then you step back and you think, that's so stupid that I think that. It's like those people who think they can like win a point against Serena Williams or some shit. It's not as bad as that, but it's kind of like, of course, if I was a woman, I would not be in the England team.
It's ego. He's explaining the ego that comes naturally to us. Look, you know, when I joke and I say like, my partner and I will be watching TikToks and I'll see somebody like, you know, dive off an Olympic, you know, swimming board, whatever. And I'll be like, I could do that. Or I'll see someone do a backflip. I'm like, I could do that. How hard is that? I need you to understand, I do not in any way actually believe I could do that. Because one of the things I absolutely understand is people who do things well make it look easy. People who are professionals make it look easy. That's why I don't talk bad about YouTubers. It's why I say streaming is hard. It's why I say all these things are hard. You think it's easy because they make it look easy. But I know it's hard because I've actually tried, right? I've actually tried to do those things. And so I need you to understand that, right? That says, but there isn't a misogyny component to it, Brittany. That's the difference. Exactly. So the difference is he thinks he can be better than them because he's processing that they're women, and he thinks he's better because he's a man. Versus he would never think he was better than the male players. And that's the misogyny, like, that he's pointing out, right? Okay, back to the video.
Because I'm not that good. And also, I've not got the insane mental toughness that these women have to even play under pressure and stuff. I'm not even factoring into like a penalty shootout in a Euros final. Like, that's why the penalties are probably bad, because the pressure is absolutely insane. So it's just like that sort of reaction. And I say that to say that's like passive misogyny, because I grew up in a country that devalues women's football so much, and that's always in the...
That's all over America too. with basketball, it's like, oh, well, the women suck. The women's team suck. Nobody wants to watch them. Nobody wants to be there. Like, the culture around it is that women's sports aren't as interesting or exciting. And I'm gay, so I don't watch sports. That's a joke. But I literally am not interested in sports. The only sports I ever liked growing up were the X Games sports, okay, skateboarding and stuff like that. And even skateboarding did a lot of work to be inclusive to women, right? So remember that. They made a great effort, and every woman who ever joined skateboarding was incredibly devalued and doubted by all of the men. Oh, you're never going to be good enough. You're a girl. You can't do it. This isn't the thing for you.
Conversation. And sadly, as someone who exists in a football community in England and plays a lot of football, it's really not uncommon to hear people talk badly about women's football. And even that I know, and I've made the argument that the reason the women's game in England isn't as like good technically as the men's game is because they don't have the funding that the men have, and they don't have the funding to create this insanely competitive environment to give you similar results to the men. Like, there's nothing about being a woman inherently that makes you worse at football. But again, that's the passive misogyny of my like instinctive reaction to this stuff. And that's why you just have to keep thinking about it in your brain. And it's really hard to unpack that shit when you live in a society that doesn't challenge it. You exist in like very masculine communities. Like, I've existed in the football community. I've played football my whole life, been in these environments where there is elements of toxic masculinity, misogyny, and all this.
I mean, just from a girl's perspective, I remember one day many years ago, my brother was playing COD and he had his headset in. He puts the headset on me. He goes, hey, you can play. And he goes, say hi. I was like, hello. And they're like, oh, is that the girl? Like the voice was like, and I was instantly like, oh, and I was like feeling really bad. I was like, oh my God, no, I don't like this feeling. And it's probably why I in some ways, I've never really been like super interested in like the gaming bubbles, but I was like, oh, like this is a lot. But I remember my brother being like, no, let her play, shut up, let her play. Like, and my brothers were trying to be there, but at the same time, there is like this, I don't know, this competition that naturally comes out. Do you guys watch that gamer girl who like shoots people with the sniper on TikTok? And she just says like, hi, and then all the guys are just misogyny. Like, why are you acting like that? I don't think I've ever heard of a group of girls that are like, boo, it's a boy, boo. Like, we don't do that. I mean, we might joke, and most of the stuff we're doing is joking. But I don't think I've ever heard of a girl space that is equivalent to that. Where like just letting people know you're a boy makes everyone go like, what the fuck? Like, it happens. But you know how the boys, like, they literally have a reputation. Like, just the reputation is so strong. And that's why I'm trying to say, like, you guys make it so you create a stereotype that is so strong, right? That is so specific to being men, raised under patriarchy, that, like, even the worst misogynist of all, Destiny, okay? Mr. Borelli himself has to have misogyny conferences every so often to try to bring down the misogyny in his community. It's the men. I work really hard to keep this community 70-30, baby, okay? It's a nice balance. And that's the problem. And that's, by the way, he's a predator and he still has viewers, which I don't check in with Destiny very often. I did watch a video today about Hassan and realizing like other men in the Destiny spheres are finally realizing he's like a bad person. And that's nice to see. But I tuned out the Destiny bubble so hard because I knew anyone interacting with it at this point was lost. But it's nice to see, at least through other leftists, that like the boys in the community are waking up to it. I hope they continue to deconstruct, because the last thing you want to do is make an excuse for a predator. But I know how easy that is because they'll tell you they're working on it. Like the fact that Kyla is still batting for him so hard, the fact that all of her content is anti-Hassan content is crazy. Like, and she's pro-Ethan. Like, what are you doing? This is why I say, watch out for women. They also uphold the patriarchy. Kyla is a perfect example of this. She herself as a woman, because she desperately wants to help boys, engages in misogyny to make them feel like she's one of them, but it doesn't work because they can sniff right through it. Boys don't respect Kyla. There's not a man on the planet in that bubble that respects her. They see her as Destiny's lapdog, and they're going to throw her under the bus as soon as it's convenient for them. Because if she actually ever held them accountable, they would ostracize her. The moment all I did was say, don't take dating advice from Destiny, and that was all it took for his community and him to paint me as the biggest bitch in the world. That's all it took. All I said was, and this is when we were friendly, I said, don't take dating advice from this man. He's a serial cheater. And boom, that's all it took. God forbid Kyla ever actually have a backbone, but she won't. She won't, will she? Like many women won't. Many women in my life get upset for me for wanting to hold men accountable because they feel like you're just being so personal about this. This man targeted, manipulated, and gaslit a minor, and your focus is that I'm too passionate about wanting to protect the kid? What are we talking about? Like, what are we actually talking about? Okay? That's the problem. Now, Kavernacle goes on in this video to say something that I think is really important, and that I forget what the timestamp is. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Let me see if it's within this section. Hold on.
These things, even realize you might even practice that to a large extent at the back of your mind, what you preach, completely male dominated, so you don't even hear the counter argument. Then you have to actually wouldn't ever say anything bad about themselves. They're perfect.
Hold on.
There's an incentive to not tell people you did X or Y. There's no incentive to say anything bad about themselves. They're perfect on anti-racism. They're perfect on anti-misogyny. They're perfect on trans rights. They're perfect on Palestine. They would never say a bad thing about themselves. This is all just posturing for social media, and especially with left-wing male creators, something you have to remember, of course, there is an incentive to not talk bad about yourself. Yes. There's an incentive to not tell people you did X or Y. There's no incentive to say you haven't been perfect about something. So for a lot of these creators, they're never going to admit it in the first place, and they're never going to have that open discussion. And if we don't have that open discussion...
Because this is what we talked about when we talked about Alex, LOL, or Lolo, I keep calling him Lolo, initially, is what would accountability look like? Him not coming back to the internet. Because if you really understood what you did at the ripe age of 34, you would never show your face in public again. If Destiny, Stephen Bonnell, really understood the harm that he has committed, he would be so fucking mortified, he would never show his face in public again. Because they can't. They can't have a philosophical self-awareness. Because God forbid they actually looked at themselves in the mirror, they would be disgusted. They might even go insane from it. Now pause. Don't go insane. Go to therapy. Don't go insane. Start making amends to your community without making yourself the superstar, without making yourself a main character. Instead, they double down. They say it's not that big of a deal. Y'all are blowing it out of proportion. And that's the part. That's the marketing technique. You're blowing it out of proportion. It's not that deep. It's not that big of a deal. Chet says, what does it mean to hold someone accountable? What does it look like? Okay, for Britney, it means pointing out what they did and seeing how they react to it. If they're willing to say, oh shit, you're right, that was so shitty of me, now we talk about how to make amends, depending on the offense, of course, right? I saw a content creator, I don't know his name, I featured him actually in my podcast, so funny enough, last week I featured a post he had made, but he recently made another TikTok. He was a black guy with the chandelier earrings, if you guys know who I'm talking about, and he said, basically we were going too hard on Joey Swoll, and that Joey Swoll at the time probably just didn't know like the amount of racism that Hulk Hogan was exhibiting, including being mad his daughter was dating a black man. Like, let's focus on that, please. Okay. But a black content creator made a reply to him. I didn't save the TikTok. That's why I'm not showing you. A black content creator made a TikTok to him and said, look, you yourself said the only thing you know about Hulk Hogan is that like he said the N-word and that he was racist. And I know you're saying you're not excusing that, but by being lenient on Joey Swoll, who's 42, you are actually excusing it. Was that not enough? And black communities, listen, I watch a lot of black content creators, and one of the constant theme I see in the community is that they say it's so funny that being anti-black isn't enough for you. That no matter how anti-black and how racist somebody is, you guys can excuse it. And that is true. It seems to be true that everyone is very like, I mean, it's, it's just, it's public racism. It's not even like shit we're talking about happens in private. We're talking about shit that happened, well, I guess Hulk Hogan was exposed, but he doubled down, girl. Like his daughter doesn't even talk to him anymore. But the point is, like, even publicly, it's like people do not understand how lenient you're being on racism, which is very interesting. Like, what is it about? And I think that's that internalized racism, or that not internalized. That's that racism people don't understand. Is like, it's so casual for you to think it's not that deep. And that's what I want to change when it comes to misogyny too. You think it's so not that deep, but it is. It is. It's important, right? So yes, like as a community, right? We don't want people punished because we don't believe in punishment. We want people rehabilitated. But to be rehabilitated, and actually, wait, Kavernacle says it in this video. I think I don't know. I should have timestamped this video. It was so good. He says it in this video that basically Alex, to be accountable, like accountability period doesn't look like getting your life back. When you hold people accountable, they have to change their life because they have to change their ways. So accountability means that the person internalizes and embodies a deep understanding of the impact that they've made. And so their life will change because it will follow. If you're holding yourself accountable, it's not to get your life back. It's to change your life for the better. And that's what people are missing, right? This video is so good. Honestly, it just got posted, so I want to give him the views and the attention. Go check it out. Links in the description. He goes on to even say that he himself, Cavernacle, finds himself holding himself accountable with the fact that he recently made a video basically focusing on 3 trans women. And realized, like, shit, I got to watch that for the next time. Because even though in his head, he was just thinking about people who made arguments against or for Israel and against Palestine, he made the mistake of putting it all in one video, which made it look like, oh, trans women are the problem. And he's like, I got to watch for that next time. Which is why I even said, I try really hard to make sure that it doesn't look like I'm always talking about the same communities, because it puts in the mind of people who want to reinforce their bigotry. See? And even when it comes to men, I try to find a very good balance between when I'm talking about men and when I don't. I do, whether you acknowledge it or not. I try my very hardest, even though it's very easy, it's good views. Anytime I evoke the gender wars, all the men come out. By the way, all the men come out. When I evoke gender war content, most of the views, according to my analytics, are from boys, because boys get angry when you talk about gender politics. Girls, they get constructive. So unless the video is very much about like girls, it will be boys in the comment sections, because it triggers something in them, and it should trigger something in you. It should trigger reform, introspection, compassion, right? So, okay, one last look at this comment. Okay, let's go back to it. Let me bring it up, 2 seconds. Okay. So they said, if the test was 70 or higher, it'd be passing. Yes, you should be encouraged to improve, but you shouldn't be shit on because you didn't score 100. There is something sad about having to constantly be vigilant against the wrong thing. Do you know, when I meet white people that are really terrified of hanging out with black people, a lot of white people won't make friends with black people because they feel like, oh, I'm just worried I'll say the wrong thing. I need you to deconstruct that with me, okay? What is scary about hanging around black people if you're not racist? What are you afraid to say wrong? Okay? And it's because they haven't even, the reason they're afraid is because they don't know. They don't know, which is fine. We all don't know things. What is considered racist, because they never sat and thought about it. If you sit and you think about what's racist, you will know how to properly show up in communities. You will know how to exhibit behavior. And if you get something wrong, they're more than likely, all minorities are more than likely to be very compassionate and lenient unless you reoffend. Okay? And that's the dilemma, is like, even with trans people, I know so many trans people that like do not get upset the first moment you mispronoun them. It's usually when you keep doing it over and over again, right? And when people get that defensiveness, it's very biological human. It's very biological human for you to be terrified around groups of people you do not understand how to engage with, right? But you have to create a space to also be corrected. And if you do not create the space to be corrected, you are amplifying the problem, because you're probably fighting your defensiveness. Listen to me when I say this. We are all biological creatures. We are all raised in dysfunction. We can only do our best to catch ourselves when we feel like we're getting defensive. The one reason I think my relationship is so successful is we both, as adults, found ways we had to heal and remove our defensiveness. So when we do get defensive, we can say, hey, I'm feeling it in my body. I'm feeling this way. It's a form of communication that comes from healing. And that's why racism is a matter of healing. Bigotry is a matter of healing. Misogyny is a matter of healing. We are very unhealed. Okay, we are very unhealed. Chat says defensiveness clouds our empathy 100%. And if you're autistic like me, so does your PDA. My PDA clouds my empathy. I get so defensive. I want to shut down, and it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility to catch it and go, oh, PDA triggered. Give me a second. PDA triggered. I'm sorry. This is not my fault, but it is my responsibility to catch it. And so if it's happening to you and you don't have a name for it, like I didn't, as an undiagnosed autistic person, all of my fucking life did not have the language for what was happening, Okay. Me, a depressed BPD girl who didn't have language for why I was having all of these fucking intrusive thoughts, right? I thought they were me. I thought my defensiveness was me. And then I realized, like, this isn't you, Britt. This is your body. This is your body. It's upset, but give it a second. It's just trying to protect you. It's literally just trying to protect you, right? And so give it a second, let it calm down, and approach the situation appropriately. Overstimulation. Okay, when your nieces and nephews are like, Auntie Brittany, Auntie Brittany, Auntie Brittany, Auntie Brittany, and you start feeling crazy because you've answered 100 questions about like why goldfish do this. You know what I mean? And you're like, okay, pause. I love you. Give me a second. And before you lash out at the kid and be like, fucking stop talking, be quiet. Before you lash out at a kid, just be like, I love you. Give Auntie Brittany 10 minutes. Give Auntie Brittany 10 minutes because, you know, sometimes she gets overstimulated and you have so many good questions and I really want to answer them for you. But sometimes when I'm really tired, I give you the wrong answer. So let me, you know, regain some energy so I can give you good answers. Communicate with them. Use full sentences. Let the community around you know what you're feeling. Maybe even say, hey, I'm feeling like I did something wrong and I don't want to do that. Can you tell me what I did was wrong? I remember, one of the universal experiences of having, I think, like hair like this is people touch it. And I know this is very prevalent amongst Black women, especially. But I remember that I was at a conference. Okay, this happened a multitude of times, but I remember I was at a conference and people had been drinking and I feel someone touch my hair. And I like turned around and I did this. I just like looked at them with a scrunchy face and he went like this. He went, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, I'm gonna give you a second because you have a drink in your hand to think before you reach. And I said, don't touch my hair. And God forbid you had touched something else, you would have been kicked out of this event. So I'm gonna give you a pass because it was my hair, but also don't ever do it again. Because it's not about it being my hair. It's about it being my personal space that you felt inclined to literally from behind where I couldn't even see you make contact. It's the whole context of the situation, right? I understand we're animals, like we're actually human animals. So we might actually, much like a dog goes right for the crotch, we might instinctually not even think about it. I am so lenient on people. I know that sometimes you do things without thinking. I do it all the time. But if the thing you're doing without thinking is touching, you need to train yourself out of that. If the thing you're doing without thinking is touching, you need to train yourself out of that. It is your responsibility. So if you're in a community where you feel like 70% should be good enough not to get shit on for your 30% of racism, 70% is good enough, but you touch without asking, but you don't know. So that's the problem. I don't want you to walk on eggshells around your family and friends. But I want you to understand that you're not going to have to do that if you're in the right community that's healthy, that loves you, that will be there through it with you, but will also hold you accountable. And I think that's the problem is like most people are really great, but they're also capable of such great evil. It's like that TikTok we watched yesterday. The greatest test about humans, like herd empathy, like humans as a whole, their empathy is openly watching a genocide happen. It's so publicized. It's literally everywhere. And we can just sit and watch and think like, yeah, I guess this makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. And this is happening in our individual homes. It is hard. I, again, am not saying it is not hard to have these conversations with your family and friends, but you are not making it easier by being like, I don't want to feel like I'm walking on eggshells. I don't want to feel like I'm sitting in the room with somebody who's willing to ignore assault. I don't feel like I want to sit in the room with somebody who's exhibiting racist tendencies. I want to sit in the room with somebody who's willing to say like, oh shit, wait, thanks for calling me out. Let me think about that. Even with my own marriage, like we have safe words in this marriage because ultimately we don't have always the perfect language to say, hey, I'm activated. To say, hey, I'm upset. To say, hey, I want to continue this, but I don't have the spoons right now. Give me a second. I'm going to make a podcast about this, fighting in relationships. We are so fucking dysfunctional that we have women on podcasts saying, how could you ask me to leave my boyfriend just because he gave me a black eye? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? We live in cultures like mine in which we let elders get away with the most bullshit because they're old. So you're the elder, you want to be in charge, you want to be the last word in the room, but you also want to be somebody we have to tippy toe around because you're old now? No. Okay? Discord said to be accountable, people must understand what they did was wrong and why. Most of them seem to get stuck there. Well, I think we do punish. Now, to be fair to this commenter, we live in a world that punishes people. I don't believe in punishment. This is a safe space. If you don't want to feel like you're being punished, because I'm not trying to punish you. I don't believe in prisons the way we have them. I don't believe in the interactions of punishment as a way to get, justice. Like, I don't believe in that here. I don't know how many times I can say it. I don't want to punish you. But in order for you to understand what you've done, in order for you to really understand that it's bad, you have to be able to embody that with how your life will look. So just like Cavernacle said, you're not seeking accountability to have the life you had before. You're doing it so we can move on. If you cheat on your spouse and your spouse can no longer be with you, but you have children, you holding yourself accountable isn't keeping your marriage together. It's you becoming the most amazing co-parent with your kids and letting your kids know that what you did was not only wrong, but you're going to make amends for it moving forward. I don't want you to even blame yourself or beat yourself up for the rest of your life. I need you to also learn to forgive yourself. But you can't forgive yourself before you've done the work. You can't be accountable by just saying you did a bad. You have to incorporate it into your live life. Like, I need you to actually incorporate that. And that's what creates high trusting communities. High trust communities are built on this idea that there is a safety as a community because we know we're going to do somewhat of the right thing. If we have a low trust community, you're always going to be on edge. You're always going to doubt people. You're always going to be jumpy. But you can't build a high trust community if we have different values, because when push comes to shove and temptation comes in in front of you, we have to know that you're going to make the right decision. And if you're not going to make the right decision, it's going to start to build low trust. We're going to start to doubt every single person around us. And it's funny because the same people who talk about high trust communities are literally cheaters. That's what's so funny to me. Is like, no, you can't be like high trust communities. High trust communities. Also, let's cheat for love. It's romance. No, high trust must actually be through action. I trust this person. They wouldn't do that because it's not a part of their values. But also, people lie. I think sometimes that, somebody in my comment section said, how do these YouTubers keep collabing with predators? Like, how could Hassan, collab with Alex? People lie. People have a brand. People pretend they're better than they are. Actually, something Cavernacle said in this video that made me respect him too is he's not trying to have a community. Yeah, same. Not with other YouTubers. I'm not trying to be your friend, bro. Okay? I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm trying to put the right information out there. I'm trying to help the world get a little bit better. I'm not here to build friendships. But community doesn't have to be friendships. It has to be trust. We're building trust. So if you guys wonder, what is a community? It's trust. We're building trust. When I get on the road, I trust most of us are going to follow the rules of the road. You don't have to be my friend for me to trust you not to, drive your car into the wall. And when it happens, it's horrible because it's oh my God, what happened? It must be an emergency. If we lived in a world where we had no trust of people who drove on the road and everybody was just crashing every day, we'd probably be terrified to drive, right? We probably wouldn't get into cars. We'd probably be I'm not doing that. But that's why we build this trust that you're going to stop at a red light and go on a green. Okay? And that's what I want for all of our social communities to understand. I just need to trust you're going to do something. When Trump was caught with his locker room talk, grab him by the pussy, when he was bragging about these underage girls in his pageants, men laughed. This tape leaked and men said locker room talk. I can't have a high trust community where this is your locker room talk. And I understand it's a lot. I understand that you just want to live your life without overthinking it. But as you continue to do that, it continues to show in the world. As we continue as a species to just, I don't want to think about it. I just want to live my life. I get you. If only that didn't also impact everybody around you, right? Remember how we watched The Village in Arkansas of white people who are having a white village, and people in my comments were like, I guess if they're not hurting anybody, who cares? What about all their black neighbors? The woman who was interviewed has a museum there, a black woman, and she's terrified because now that's her neighbors. Like you might think, oh, a white neighborhood has no impact on the neighborhood, but that white neighborhood is inside of a neighborhood. It's not, you know what I'm saying? Like they're still connected to somebody. They don't live, they are still going to go shopping into grocery stores, have some connection too. How safe would you feel if the neighborhood next to you was literally creating a world where they thought you were so evil, they needed to move away from you? Which I guess as trans people and gay people, you feel that every day, girls, and I'm here for you. Okay, I'm here for us. Somebody in my chat the other day said, thank you for being an ally. And they had like a rainbow emoji on my video. And I was like, insert TikTok soundbite. And I was like, ally. Ally. Listen, I want you to feel comfortable enough to hold yourself accountable. But I hate to tell you this, accountability is very uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. I think the way my partner and I do it in our marriage comes from actually ourselves. We want to get better, so we understand that it will be uncomfortable, but we're ready for it. I think when you're not ready to hold yourself accountable, that uncomfortability feels like the end of the world. You know? That's what it is. It feels like the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It's the beginning of a new one. And I want you to be a part of it. So when this person says, there's something sad about having to constantly be vigilant against wrong think and wrong act, we're just asking you not to be racist, transphobic, homophobic, or misogynistic. We are just asking you to value human beings for not the way they're born, but for the way they act. I am just asking you simply to tackle these 4 issues. And if you are terrified of wrong think when it comes to racism, misogyny, transphobia, and homophobia, and it's too hard for you, that's kind of the problem. Is it shouldn't be that big of a deal to be like, hey, no racism. Hey, no bigotry. Hey, let's talk about it. I do not believe men are born bad, but I believe every day you are reinforced by bad behavior. And it is so clear to me by who men make famous. It is so clear to me by who men make famous. And look, girls aren't exempt from this. But since the people asking me this question was a man, pay attention to who men make famous, who men make president. And just remember that no matter how many things have come out against Trump, you still think he's just so funny, though. And to be honest, I get it. But at least for me, it doesn't matter how funny you are. You still need to be held accountable. It doesn't matter how charismatic you are, you have to be held accountable. And that's simply the difference. I can acknowledge he's funny. He's going to be very funny in a jumpsuit as well. He's going to be just as funny when we hold him accountable. It doesn't matter that he's funny. You got to hold him accountable, okay? Okay. Man. That says, Brittany, there were a lot of women who voted for Trump more than we thought they would. I don't get it. Women uphold the patriarchy. Women uphold the patriarchy. There are plenty of people who would rather join the oppressor than take the risk of being oppressed even harder than normal. Right? It's scary. Guys, it is so scary to be in the world when you realize you might get killed for it. For real, for real. For real, for real. And I really empathize with that. But sometimes, in the right situation, it should be worth dying for. And that's maybe the difference. We always are willing to say that men die to make America. Men died unnecessarily to maintain a patriarchal system that keeps them oppressed. I would love it if you would die for something that actually freed you. But we die for the wrong reasons constantly, and we live for the wrong reasons constantly. If only we could learn to live and die for the right reasons. Maybe that context makes it easier for people. But plenty of people I knew growing up were more than happy to vote against women's right to choose while getting abortions for their own girls. And I just want you to remember that every day, that Republicans and conservatives will talk about family values while they're fucking the maid. They will literally be homophobic and transphobic while on the weekends they're doing drag. It really matters that we walk the walk. It really, really matters. And you can do that by holding yourself accountable. You can always be a better person. And one last thing to wrap it up. We have to start while they're babies. Most people are not good enough parents. Most people are very bad at parenting. And so do not get it twisted that does not fall on parenting as well. We raise our kids to be these people, and then we're shocked when they become adults. I am very lucky that I was curious enough as a kid to get out of the bubble that raised me. But the reason I'm still locked in it is because I'm hoping to liberate my siblings and other people in it, but not at the expense of myself. And by the way, they will ask you to do it at the expense of yourself. So be very careful. Why don't you come over? Why won't you have the conversation? Why can't we tell you people are predators because you're inherently born that way when you're gay or straight? But God forbid, you know what I mean? Like, it is very difficult to make the world a better place. I don't know why we thought it would be so easy, but it starts at parenting. You know, it does start at parenting. But I also believe we're evolved animals, so this is the best we can do. And you have to live with those two contradictions for the rest of your life. We are just literally animals. We're literally biological creatures. We give ourselves too much credit. But I'm hoping when I say that, you realize with humility how easy it is to be a bad person. And so you start to do the work to avoid it. People think it's very hard to be a bad person. It is incredibly easy to be a bad person. It is so easy to do the wrong thing, which is why all these men who talk about discipline are so ironic to me. Because for such disciplined men, you're so bad. You are so bad. So what was the point of your discipline? Oh, it made you $1 million? Yeah, but you're horrible in every other way. And that's capitalism as well, girls. Don't get it twisted. This is why women uphold the patriarchy, because women are slaves to capitalism. I want a provider man. I want a man who makes the money. You want a piece of shit man. You want a man who's going to neglect you as a woman for the sake of making $1 so he can prove he's good enough for you. The moment your man becomes a bank account is the moment you guys both sold your soul to capitalism. Who needs, a good partner when your partner pays your bills? That's why I don't like Shira Seven and all these women, sprinkle, who talk about finding a man who pays your bills. Every man's going to cheat anyways. And she's a parent. She has daughters. That mother is raising her daughter. She's raising a whole generation of women who love her. Cardi B just used her soundbite on a record, and I don't even like Cardi B's values. Her ethics are horrible. But sometimes she's got banger opinions. But they're broken, dysfunctional people, and why wouldn't they be? They grew up in a broken and dysfunctional world. Why wouldn't I be broken and dysfunctional? I grew up in a broken and dysfunctional world, right? That's why it's so hard to do the work. And I didn't really understand how to do the work until I hit 30. Like, I genuinely just started doing the work around 30. I mean, I was doing the work prior, of course, but I didn't really get it. And I'm still every day getting it more and more. I am not a wise person, okay? I am not a wise person. But maybe by 50 I will be. And that's pretty good, guys. That's pretty good compared to like everybody else who's in their 50s and 60s a mess. I just saw the funeral pictures for Ozzy Osbourne's funeral, and everyone's like, oh my God, Sharon loved him. They loved each other so much. Sharon was so in love with him. Sharon was in love with an abuser. She was in love with her abuser. Sharon Osbourne was in love with her abuser. And people are in the comments like, they loved each other. They were really with each other the whole time. She was in love with her abuser. Just said, nah, Cardi B isn't damaging this generation. That's racist. Well, actually, I was talking about Shira 7. Cardi B is just a victim of a generation, but I think she's contributing to it by highlighting Shira 7. Yeah. I think she is. And I think her constant cycle with her baby daddy and her whole thing and her husband cheating on her and her taking him back and having her back and forth. Yeah, I think that's not good. Right? I think Cardi B is a victim though, right? Jess said also insane nonsense. She's fine. Tom Brady ruined an entire generation and made a bunch of men think it's okay to cheat. Okay, girl, I don't know why you can't hold them both accountable. Didn't Cardi B also cheat on her husband to get back at him? Why can't you just hold them both accountable? I don't know why you got to pick and choose. P.S. Love Cardi. Can't wait to listen to her new album. But her values suck. I don't know why it's so hard for you to hold them both accountable. You know what I mean? She's one person. She's not affecting this entire generation. Yeah, but we're all one person. This beginning monologue is about accountability of the individual. She's famous. She has status. Millions of people get to tune into her stream, which she's used for good a lot of the time, right? Cardi B has used her platform to do activism a lot of the time, so give her credit. But, right? The way we publicly handle our divorces, our relationships, the way we publicly handle ourselves, like, that's a part of it. She's not done growing. She's only as responsible as she's responsible, but she still has to be responsible because that's the point. Is nobody's exempt. None of us are exempt from responsibility. Something that keeps coming up with my own relationship in relation to work is I'll notice that like, oh, I'm getting traction and I'm doing well. And I'm like, oh, I don't want the responsibility yet. To me, fame is responsibility. And my partner says, it's so funny that you're serious, like you're worried about getting more popular because you know it's responsibility. I am terrified of actually making this channel blow up because I understand the weight of that responsibility. Most famous people do not. Most people do not understand the weight of it. They are just seeking money and status. And I see it as an insane amount of responsibility. And I think in 10 years, I'll be ready. Okay? You know? But I'm terrified every day that I'm going to wake up and I'm going to get viral. And then all of a sudden I have the responsibility of 50,000 people watching me or 10,000 people watching me. That's a huge responsibility. And so these people have a responsibility because they have that access, because they have that platform. You know? That said, I understand her being responsible. I just don't think she's affecting a bunch of people as if without her things would be better. I mean, I agree with you, right? She's not the only person responsible, right? She's just responsible for her little bubble. I think we agree. She's just responsible for her little bubble, but her little bubble is quite big. Quite big. You know? Quite big. You know what I'm saying? Quite, but like, yeah. Like, I agree with you. She's not like the reason, but you know, none of us are. Trump isn't solely the reason. I know we want to blame Trump, but he's only partially the problem. You know what I'm saying? But like, he's still kind of like a big fucking problem. He's kind of the president of the United States. So like, yeah, so it's like no celebrity, no famous person is the problem, but they are a part of the problem, right? All of us are a part of the problem. All of us. And all I'm saying is give yourself grace because you will make mistakes, but also I hope you do better. Give yourself grace. Okay? Give yourself grace. But we also have to do better, right? And that's okay. You know, Chet said 200 people is class or a coffee shop or a plaza. And then someone else said 200 people is still a lot. And I take it pretty seriously, right? But think of the emotional labor I'm doing for 200 people on stream, right? Like think of the emotional labor I already do on this stream. Think about how my words have already been clipped. Think about how many Reddit posts have already been made about me. And I only have this small of a community. I'm really lucky I get to do this for a living, but I do take it very seriously. I take it insanely seriously. And maybe that's why I'm growing up to be more and more cautious about making sure I'm doing good by my communities, because I do think it's important, you know? And that's the thing. At the end of the day, I do think it's important. Enough that I really hope for a continued slow growth so I can be mature enough to handle the responsibility. I want to be mature enough to handle the responsibility. Because certainly nobody in charge of this fucking White House is responsible enough because they're not mature enough. And it's too easy to be on the internet. It end up immature because it's a very immature space, you know? So yeah, with that said, it certainly isn't one person's responsibility for the world, but it's us as a collective that impacts it. This is a group project. We're either going to fail or succeed in together. And right now, girl, it looks like we're going to get an F. And it doesn't matter how much some of us show up. It has to be most of us showing up. And that's why I say be cautious with how much emotional labor you're doing for these people and do just enough to benefit your community so your community goes out to benefit others and it spreads out. Okay? Focus on your 6-foot radius and have it spread out. And I, again, give people their flowers when it's, you know, when they deserve it, but also hold people accountable. Even the best of us will need to be held accountable. Okay. Any last questions on this topic before we move on? We're going to watch Britt Hartley talk to Rainn Wilson. No. Chet said, are you hopeful, Brittany? I'm always hopeful. Yeah. I think human beings over time do better. I just think we're very slow learners, which is very frustrating. But yeah, I'm deeply hopeful for humanity, even if we're slow learners. But I think it's about accepting that. I think a part of my radical acceptance journey is accepting that we're slow learners. I mean, I'm not an exception to this. You know? Chet says, thank you for the discussion. Thank you for the discussion. I appreciate it. Chet says, I dislike liberals who are for the world but mistreat the people around them. Well, you know what happens with liberals is they fall into the same trap conservatives do, where they think it's okay to be bad for a good reason. And I think it's never okay to be bad. I'm sure that will come up in other streams. Like, what does that mean? I think that's where people struggle. I'm not much of an abstract thinker, so maybe you're like me, where you're like, Brittany, how does that actually apply to life? And that's why we use real life examples. Like, I'm not going to blame people for stealing diapers and formula, but I would like a world where they didn't have to. And if you're in a position of privilege, you're not supposed to. Like, if you're in a position of privilege, you're not allowed to steal diapers and formula because that's bad for society. But if you're underprivileged and you are desperate, I'm not going to blame you. Circumstance creates perception and option. That's why we have to liberate our communities so they don't have to do bad out of being desperate. And that's why we hold people in privilege more accountable, because you don't have to engage in this behavior. You're doing it for funsies.